What's up everybody, Grant here from Spectra Racing. So we have the 321 Coyote in the shop here, and it's mostly assembled and mostly ready to go into the car. One thing I wanted to go over with you guys before we put it into the car is kind of everything involved in building this. So this video will definitely help you out if you bought a used Coyote missing a lot of parts, or like me, if you bought pretty much a brand new short block and pieced together your own new hardware. So let's get into it. Okay, so as you can see, currently we got the Whipple 3-liter Gen 6 on the 321. This will be, as far as I know, one of the few Gen 6s put in an S197. That's why I'm still waiting on parts, as technically there's nothing really that fits. The 11-14 Whipple did have a Gen 5 kit, so I'm waiting for some Gen 5 hardware and a few other things like idler pulleys and whatever. But let's get into what you're going to kind of need if you bought a used Coyote missing parts, or like me, a new Coyote. So in this case, this is a 321 Coyote, so it's a Gen 3 short block, Gen 2 heads, and Gen 1 cams and timing. So you see I have a newish ECU ready to go in the S197 here, my 2008. So I'm using a Make It modular harness with the 2013 to 2014 GT500 transmission harness. So there's actually some mysteries that I still need to figure out and talk and basically when I get in the car. But let's go over some of the parts that that you're going to need. Now first up, alternator. So this is the Boss alternator. It's a little bit more durable. Second up, so obviously all the water assembly stuff. The 11 to 14 water hose if you're putting this in a 05 to 14. The thermostat assembly there and the upper splitter. You can kind of see it over there. Now there actually is a water neck. There is a Whipple specific one. And this one's a little bit different because you can see I kind of have to be able to squeeze the hose through there with the Whipple. So obviously the actual water pump itself, it's kind of hidden behind the Whipple bracket here. I went with the Ford Racing one. It supposedly has a little bit higher output. They actually have an electric one too. I had an electric on the 3-valve, you can see, very sadly sitting over there. The oil pump seized and grenaded the motor, sadly. But my Miser electric water pump on that one held up to the very end for over 7 years. So just the one on this one was out of stock, and it was like $1,400. So, and I've already gone way over budget doing all this stuff. Okay, so now with the Make It modular kit, the harness basically kind of, everything splices out as if it was a 11 to 14. So in this case, I went with a new EPAS rack, so the electric power assist steering, and this is the Boss rack. I didn't want to get a used one. You can get the used ones for much cheaper than this. This was almost $1,400. One of the other things you can see on the short block itself and is the Moroso oil pan. That's just to give it, it's a baffled race pan. I had kind of the same thing on the 3-valve over there, you can see. I had the Canton one, but I had the Moroso one for this. And it just gives it an extra capacity as well, as long with being baffled, so it always has pickup. Now obviously I did not, it's a race car, so it has no air conditioning, so I did not do anything with air conditioning. There is still a connector lead for that on the harness, so if you do want air conditioning, or I'm sure you can pick that up in a junkyard. Okay, so obviously one of the things I'm still working on is the fuel evap. I am piecing together this Whipple kit here. I basically only got the head unit, so I'm kind of having to piece together a lot of the other stuff, and it's pretty difficult, as you can see. But the fuel evap, I'm a little not sure. This I had to buy this. Otherwise, it should come with a stock Coyote with the intake manifold. You will need, with the Whipple, you will need a relocation harness, and VMP sells that. I don't have that, but the actual connection is down over here somewhere. I think this is the throttle body. Yeah, I think it's this one. So you kind of need a relocation. Now the other thing, I guess we'll see what happens to the stock evap that has a connector. I'm hoping the pinout that this is disabled so it doesn't throw code, you know, because they can't, the tuner can't code these out anymore. It's technically illegal. Okay, so obviously when it comes to exhaust, with the Coyote Stop and an S197, you can use any 11 to 14 exhaust. You can see I got these beautiful set of American Racing headers. I've always wanted American Racing headers. This kit was very expensive, but these things are really nice, and they have a lot of good clearance for the, you can see for the steering rack there. So I have the BMR motor mounts with the BMR motor brackets. And that was pretty tricky to get that all lowered and aligned, because you can see you want to lower it as much as you can against the engine here, but you want to make sure you have a little bit of clearance. I probably could have lowered another 1/4 inch, but yeah, I guess we'll see if we need it with the clearance on the supercharger. Now you can, if you're if you find a set of the 05 to 14, so the actual 3-valve motor brackets will work on this. I just wanted red ones because obviously they're cool. All right, coming around to the back of the engine, it being a new engine, I had to spend a lot of money on sensors. I had to get cam position sensors. I had to get knock sensors. You can kind of see underneath. And I had to actually use the Gen 1 knock sensors. The Gen, I think 2 and 3, there's 4, and the early gens, there's 2. But the wiring harness I have is the 1114 wiring harness, so that all connects there. And what you can see here, I had to get a crank position sensor and the crank trigger wheel, which is behind the bell housing here. Now you can't see. Coming around back here, I had to get the oil level sensor, so you don't get that stupid warning on the dash. I did not have that in the 3-valve, and that always drove me nuts, thinking the car had no oil pressure until it didn't. All right, so coming around here to the back, now if you're doing the swap with an MT82, a lot of this is not going to apply, but if you do the 6060 or the Magnum XL in my case, which is what this is, the 13 to 14 transmission harness, the speed sensor at the back here is not long enough, so I did have to lengthen this about 4 inches. And for this Tremec Magnum, it's just the stock Magnum XL, except with the MGW shifter. I didn't like the shifter it came with, but this should be a lot nicer than the even the Tremec 3650 that I'm coming from. So circling back to the power steering rack, you'll notice if you're using an 05 to 09 K-member, the power steering rack has an extra bolt. And in talking to Matt Sopa, who runs Make It Modular, he's done tons of these swaps. Be sure to check out his channel. That extra bolt hole, not necessary. Even Ford stopped using it after a while. So I guess we'll see when we get it on the racetrack though. Okay, so obviously you'll need a starter. The starter from your old 3-valve will work. Any 05 to 14 will work here. In this case, I did, in talking to Power by the Hour, you might need some shims to get this to work, so I guess we'll see if I need shims, but in watching the 4 Eyes video, he didn't use any shims, and he had the same starter that I did, so I'm hoping we won't need one. And now if you notice, I don't have the header on this side. When I saw a couple of people doing loading the engine the way I'm doing in this case, which is, this is all just on some dollies, and it'll all just be kind of rolled that way. And then the car will be lowered on top of it. I'll bolt it up. As I saw, there's a little bit of a clearance issues to get the headers in between the kind of beams here on the Mustang. So one of the things I saw is people just leave off the passenger side header, because that's one's a little bit easier to get to when the engine is in the car. So one of the other things you'll see I did is On this swap, so it's the 20, like I said, it's the 2013 2014 transmission harness. And normally that harness on a normal car comes around the front here, clips to these things, and then goes back there. And there's the power steering connector, and then the alternator plug and the alternator power cable. However, I could not get it to get around here and kind of radius this turn, and also with the oil cooler and the oil pressure sensor there. I didn't like how much strain was on that cable, so what I did is I ran it underneath, and when I get it back in the car, I'm gonna make sure it's not kind of rubbing underneath the oil pan here, but I did shield it just in case. That way it doesn't kind of rub and cause a fire or something. Okay, so the Whipple Supercharger. I'm gonna overlay some video I took before I put the lid on. This is, like I was saying, this is a Gen 6 Whipple. I have the 3.6 pulley on here now. I still need to get some parts. You see, like the throttle body motor. I still need to figure out some of the evap lines here, although like this one goes to the brake booster, but this one I believe goes to the evap, and those connections are kind of weird Ford specific elbow connections. But one of the things I spent a ton of money on, and I'm still trying to figure it out, is since this was kind of a leftover kit that BMP had, I'm kind of having to piece together the fuel rails. These are actually Dark Horse fuel rails, and I was using GT500, a GT500 Injector Dynamics 1050X fuel injector kit, and I spent a lot of money trying to figure out the spacers that I need, and I'll probably overlay some pictures that I have, but these rails have 2 height positions, and basically it is a really tight fit for these injectors, and you have to set them to a certain height. And the spacing that I found was basically 14 millimeters of bottom spacing. You can put 12 on the bottom and 12 on the top, but I want to limit the amount of connections in the fuel system. So one of the other things, if you're adapting this to an 1114 Mustang, is the intake air 2 temperature sensor. I bought one from Ford, and I used one of the plugs in the back of the Whipple here. And VMP actually sells a breakout from the throttle, the MAF, I think it's the MAF sensor. Or no, the throttle, I think it's the throttle body. They sell a breakout connector. Yeah, so this breakout connector breaks out from your throttle body to that intake air temperature sensor there. And when Matt Sopa made the wiring harness for me, he actually thought I'd be doing this manually. I didn't know that actual kit exists, and he actually lengthened that sensor wire for me, so I'll have to put that back in. But that'll probably follow up on with the next video, so be sure to watch that when I get everything in the car and wired up. Probably be another month or 2, honestly, because I have no idea how much we're still missing. Obviously, a lot of the airbox parts and the custom idler pulley that's for Whipple. That's kind of the most critical part I'm missing right now. Having the Whipple on here will be really cool. If you don't know, haven't seen my car before, I ran the last, God knows how many years, at least 2 years of grid life time attack and almost a decade of autocross with a 2.3 liter TDS. And the intercooler size on this thing is just nuts compared to the TDS. So on top of that, the 3-valve here, I'm running a dual heat exchanger system. So I was actually running even a smaller one than this fluid dyne. I was running the stock GT500 one up front. So this is actually an upgrade. And then I'm actually running a rear mount heat exchanger, a gigantic one in the back in the trunk. You can kind of see it. So along with that, running X85, this thing should run super cool on track. So obviously one of the things you can't see here is, the transmission is the clutch. I went basically I went with the, if you watch the Four Eyes video where we put this Tremec Magnum XL on his 3-valve, I just copied exactly what he did. I bought this whole kit just like he did. The only weird thing, and I guess we'll see when I get in the car, is the throwout bearing. I'm a little unsure if that's going to be correct. I used the same one he did, and technically there's no real difference here at the back, mating to a 3-valve versus mating to the Coyote. So when I first start the car, I'll make sure the wheels aren't on the ground in case it gets stuck. In worst case, I have to pull the back out. But with this transmission, it's a little bit easier because the bell housing is a 2-piece. So it'll be a little bit easier to get out of the car if I need to service the clutch or adjust the throwout bearing. But hopefully you found that somewhat informative. I'm gonna list all the parts that I bought down below. It is a lot. I have spent a lot on this, obviously, because this is all brand new. This is nothing used. I wanted a new engine. That way, you know, even if short block takes a shit or something, I have a new engine to work with. I just got tired of the old 3-valve stuff, and it'll be nice actually having something new for once. So definitely wouldn't recommend doing it this way. It's too expensive. Buying used junk is way cheaper. Especially, you end up spending a lot of money on all these knickknacks, the sensors, hoses, and everything that you can kind of just get with a used build. But, so we're gonna get it in the car, so be sure to check out the next video, hopefully soon. Thanks for watching.